So the Jews destroyed themselves. This is seen in two ways. Recall the outer layer of the chiasm of Daniel 9:24 through 27. This layer applies to the Jewish nation. The upper half of Daniel 9:24, that is Daniel 9:24a, defines the Jewish nation, Daniel's people, by the words transgression, sins, and iniquity. In other words, sin. The lower half of Daniel 9:26 and 27, in other words, Daniel 9:26b and 27b, describes the Jewish nation, Jerusalem, and the sanctuary with the phrases desolations determined and desolate, determined, desolate. But this is precisely Daniel 8:13's the transgression of desolation. In other words, according to Daniel 8:13 and Daniel 9:24 through 27, the desolation of the Jewish nation was a direct result of continued and persistent transgression. Now, what is the second reason for their desolation? The pattern, abomination of desolation. Set up the abomination of desolation. The church unites with the state. The Jews unite with Rome, who by the mouth of thy servant David hast said, Why did the heathen rage and the people imagine vain things? The kings of the earth stood up, and the rulers were gathered together against the Lord and against his Christ. For of a truth, against thy holy child Jesus, whom thou hast anointed, both Herod and Pontius Pilate, with the Gentiles and the people of Israel, were gathered together. Acts 4:25 through 27. Persecution by the church through the state. Rome crucifies Christ. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. Desolation. The state turns on the church. Rome destroys Jerusalem. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. In other words, the desolation of the Jewish nation was also a direct result of it joining itself to Rome, an abominable union in God's sight, whoredom, in order to kill Christ, God's own Son. So in search of what the transgression is, and who the transgressors are, we looked at Daniel 8:13, and we finished with that text. Then we looked at Daniel 9:24, and we finished with that text. Now we need to look at our last text, Daniel 8:23. When the transgressors are come to the full, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. Daniel 8:23. We have seen that the transgressors are the Jews, or more precisely, the Jewish nation. What is their kingdom? The Maccabees, 168 to 63 BC. Recall the 4 horns of the goat. Recall that the pleasant land, or Judea, is the west horn, which makes it part of the goat, or Satan. The kingdom of the Maccabees, spawn of the goat, the devil. And making a gathering, he sent 12,000 drachmas of silver to Jerusalem for sacrifice to be offered for the sins of the dead, thinking well and religiously concerning the resurrection. For if he had not hoped that they that were slain should rise again, it would have seemed superfluous and vain to pray for the dead. And because he considered that they who had fallen asleep with godliness had great grace laid up for them, it is therefore a holy and wholesome thought to pray for the dead, that they may be loosed from sins. 2 Maccabees 12:43-46. Douay-Rheims version. Where in the Bible are we ever told to pray for the dead? This is only one step away from praying to the dead. 70 weeks of probation. Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Jesus saith unto him, I say not unto thee, until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Matthew 18:21 and 22. The Jewish nation had God's forgiveness available to it for 70 times 7, or 490 years. Daniel 9's 70 weeks. But then probation closed, and there was no more forgiveness, only on-rushing, unstoppable desolation. I must stop at this point for a moment and state something very important. God loves the Jewish people, but they can only be saved one way, like all others. Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. John 14:6. And the Father goes on crying, turn ye from your evil ways. For why will ye die, O house of Israel? Ezekiel 33:11.